Hi everybody, this is Alan Ellman, the Blue Collar Investor, with today's covered call writing question of the day. Today's question comes from Peter. It's a short question, but it's an excellent one. Alan, I listened to an options webinar yesterday and the speaker mentioned strike pinning, where the stock price moves to the strike price as options expire. Is this for real? And if yes, can you explain? Thanks a lot, Peter. Well, Peter, I do believe that pinning the strike is a reality, and there's actually a couple of explanations for it, and I'm going to give you the one that I feel is the best of those explanations, and hopefully we'll be able to add some color to this concept of pinning, what's called pinning the strike. But I know we have a lot of new members that may not be familiar with some of the terms that I'm going to be using in response to your question. So let's take just a couple of minutes to review a few of the important terms to explain how pinning the strike works. So the first of these definitions is pinning the strike. And actually, Peter, you did a great job of explaining it in your question. It's the tendency for a stock price to move towards the strike price, call or put, when the stock price is near the money of that strike price. And we're talking, of course, on expiration Friday as 4 p.m. Eastern Time is approaching. Now, delta is one of the Greeks, probably the Greek that's most looked at for options traders. And delta is the amount that an option value will change for every $1 change in share price. So for example, if an at-the-money call option for a $50 stock price was trading at $2 and the price of the stock moved up $1, we would expect the price of that option to move from $2 to $2.50, 0.5 times $1. Now, if it moved from 50 to 49, we would expect the value of that option to move from $2 down to $1.50. So that is delta. Now, a delta neutral position is something that's used by a lot of options dealers or institutional traders. And that's where their portfolio as a whole consists of positions with offsetting positive or negative deltas, so that the total position is zero or delta neutral. So calls have positive deltas, puts with negative deltas, long positions, short positions. If you add up all the positive and negative deltas, you end up with a zero or delta neutral position, which means that that portfolio is less susceptible to market risk. The final definition I'd like to review is gamma, which is also one of the Greeks, not as well known as delta, but still an important one as it relates to your question, Peter. And gamma represents the amount that delta will change for every $1 change in share price. So another way of describing it is it's the delta of deltas. It's a second generation delta, if you will. So the takeaway is that delta is not a static figure. So as the share price moves, delta will change by the amount of the gamma related to that option. And we're going to show you some examples of this in just a moment to help clarify this gamma delta issue. Okay, so in order to move on to explain pinning the strike, we have to also explain how a delta neutral position or portfolio works, which is the intention of a lot of these options dealers or institutional traders. So let's set up a very basic, easy example, and then we'll move on to hedging positions and why the stock price is going to move towards the strike price. So in this example, let's say BCI is trading at 50 and the dealer is long 100 contracts of the $50 calls, which have a delta of 0.50 and a gamma of 0.14, right? So that dealer also in this hypothetical holds 100 long BCI $50 puts which also have a delta, in this case of minus 0.50 for puts, and the same gamma of 0.14. So that's the hypothetical. If you add up the positive deltas and the negative deltas, you have a delta neutral position of 0, which means that this portfolio is not exposed to market risk, or very minimal market risk. That's what a delta neutral position looks like, and that's what many institutional traders look for in their portfolios, particularly as options are about to expire. Gives them market risk protection. All right, now what happens if the underlying price of the stock moves up or down, changing the delta by the gamma amount? Now all of a sudden it's going to throw everything out of whack, and we're no longer going to be in a delta neutral position. So let's set up a basic example for this particular hypothetical where the stock price changes from $50. So let's assume in this particular case that BCI moves from 50 up to 51. Well, the delta, which was originally 0.50, is going to move up by the gamma of 0.14, leaving you a delta of 64 for the 100 positions. Right? Now the put delta will become less negative and move from minus 0.50 plus the 0.14, leaving you in a minus 36 delta position. So you're plus 64 and you're minus 36. That leaves you in a net positive delta position of 28, no longer delta neutral. So to compensate for that, what the option dealers or institutional traders will do will be to sell an equivalent number of shares. Remember, every stock share has a delta of 1. If the price changes by $1, the price changes by $1. So in order to make up for this plus 28 positive delta position, the dealer must sell 2,800 shares, and that will bring the portfolio back to a delta neutral position. So the stock price moved up by $1, and now all of a sudden there's selling pressure of $2,800 shares, which will tend to bring the price of the stock back down towards the strike price. Now, had the opposite occurred and the price of the stock dropped by $1, well, that would then create buying pressure for the very same reasons, and that would tend to bring the price of the stock back up towards the $50 strike. So that's how hedging a portfolio by institutional traders tend to pin the strike or make the price of the stock move towards the strike price as 4 p.m. Eastern Time on expiration Friday approaches. Now, that's the theory that makes the most sense to me. There are other theories involved. Some of them are conspiratorial in nature, which I don't particularly buy into, but some people do. So you may want to research that out as well. However, most traders believe that it is this delta neutral / hedging goal of institutional traders that causes pinning the strike. So, Peter, I want to thank you so much for that question. It's a very, very interesting one. And of course, I also want to thank everybody out there for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And of course, more importantly, I hope you benefit from it. As always, this is Alan Ellman, the Blue Collar Investor. Take care, everybody.